Discover 3 sinister and spine-chilling true beach house horror tales that will haunt you forever. Kara drove with white knuckles gripping the steering wheel, her heart pounding against her ribcage like a warning bell. The quaint beach house nestled between the dunes looked picturesque, a postcard image of summer bliss. Yet the locals whispered dark tales about homes like this, homes stained by the shadows of those who vanished without a trace. As her 2 teenagers, Emma and Jake, piled out of the car, the serene sound of waves beckoned at the distance. Kara's exhaustion threatened to swallow her whole, but she inhaled the salty air, desperate for peace after her recent divorce. However, immediately, there was that unsettling air, a current that tingled along her spine, making her skin crawl. They unpacked under the watchful gaze of Dave, the neighbor, whose overly cheery demeanor felt off, as if his smile had too many sharp edges. "Need help with anything?" he asked, and a chill slithered through Kara. "Just settling in," she replied cautiously. As they prepared for their first dinner, the delightful ambience shifted. The house creaked like it was breathing, each sound magnified by the tense silence. Shadows danced just outside their line of sight, leaving an imprint of dread pooling in Kara's gut. That night, as they sat in the cozy living room, an unexpected gust rattled the windows, and a low growl of wind seeped through cracks like a faint whisper of warning. Kara brushed it off, attributing her unease to anxiety. Yet a chill spiked when she turned a corner and found strange markings etched deep into the wood, crude symbols whispering secrets that turned the air heavy. The next morning, Kara made a resolution to shake the strange feelings off. But then Emma, wide-eyed and distant, wandered toward the shore, entranced by the pulsing waves. "Mom! Look!" she called, pointing. Panic knotted in Kara's stomach when she noticed Jake conversing animatedly with Dave next door. Why had they been so drawn to the beach, crossing an invisible line she felt? As night fell, a storm rolled in, howling and banging against the old house like a furious beast. Dave's overly familiar presence loomed outside as the power flickered and died. "It's just the storm," Kara muttered, trying to convince herself, but the eerie feeling clung to her like a damp ghost. Just when the restlessness came to its peak, they stumbled across old newspaper clippings hidden beneath the floorboard's frayed yellowing pages detailing the bizarre disappearances. Each article ended with the same chilling phrase, "Last seen heading to the shore." Her heart raced. This wasn't just a vacation, it felt like a trap, drawing them in. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the storm beat violently against them, Kara felt every wall around her pulse with the same malevolence she could feel in her bones. Emma began to shamelessly declare her fascination with the ocean, while Jake's increased chatter with Dave twisted anger in her stomach. An overwhelming desperation gripped her as the house seemed to breathe around them, shadows lengthening, the noise rising like mocking laughter in the dark. Attempting to rally her children, she urged them to pack, but the storm howled louder, cutting off any chance of escape as debris accumulated outside, trapping them like prey. This wasn't just an escape, it was a race against whatever dark force tied them to this house. The surf whispered their names like a siren's call. As Kara faced her children's increasingly strange behavior, every heartbeat echoed the lurking horrors beneath the surface, and she could feel the eyes of Dave watching from the shadows, a predator weighing its options. Would she be able to protect her children from the depths calling to them, or would the very waves that drew them and beckon them to a fate darker than they could imagine? Kara stumbled back from the creaking door, which seemed to shudder at her touch, rattling like a beast in its cage. The air thickened with the electricity from the storm, causing her hair to rise, twisting with every crack of thunder. "Emma, Jake!" she shouted, the panic lacing her voice. But instead of her children, only silence returned, the house now a lonely mausoleum echoing their absence. The shadows felt closer, engulfing her as she moved through the dimly lit corridors, each step echoing as if the house were breathing softly around her. Where had they gone? She cursed under her breath for not keeping a tighter grip on them. Outside, the tempest roared, drowning out any chance of hearing their calls. It was as if the storm was alive and relishing their isolation. Kara turned sharply, her gut twisting violently. The faded newspaper clippings lay on the floor, mocking her in their ominous stillness. She picked one up again, the yellowing paper crumpling in her clammy hands. The articles all dripped with the same despairing story. Last seen heading to the shore. She cringed, knowing all too well the feeling of that phrase, the way it tasted in her mouth like bile. Mom? Emma's voice sliced through the silence, too distant and broken. Convulsing dread filled her heart as she rushed toward the sound. Emma! Where are you? Kara shouted into the inky blackness, her voice trembling. She stumbled toward the kitchen, feeling like a moth drawn to a flame, each beat of her heart echoing against her rib cage like frantic warning bells. The dim light flickered, and she caught sight of shadows shifting just beyond the window. Kara spun, pressing her forehead against the cold glass, peering through the downpour. And there, by the shore, stood Emma with her arms raised, swaying slightly as if entranced. Even through the torrential rain, Kara felt the pull of her daughter's gaze, a magnet spinning out of control. Emma! She screamed, panic flooding through her veins. No! A voice behind her, deep and gravelly, poured from the darkness. Dave stood there, an apparition cloaked in the shadows of the storm. You can't go out there, he warned, his grin uncomfortably stretching across his face, the edges of his lips curling like talons ready to pounce. Stay back! Kara shouted, her instincts igniting, but Dave's presence felt more like a barrier than a threat. Ignoring him, she dashed for the door. Emma! Come back! The wind roared in her ears, whipping her hair into a frenzy as she flung open the door. The sand lashed against her legs as she sprinted toward her daughter, each step muffled by the waves roaring behind her. Emma! She couldn't hear her daughter anymore, losing the sweet melody of her voice in the chaos. As she reached the tide line, Kara glimpsed Jake, kneeling beside Emma, their silhouettes stark against the stormy sky. Something wasn't right. They were whispering, their voices soft and conspiratorial, and as Kara approached, they turned simultaneously, wearing the same glassy-eyed stare. Mom, come play, Jake urged, his voice dripping with a foreign sweetness. No, we need to go back. Kara cried, desperation clawing her throat as she felt the water lapping at her ankles. But the ocean seemed to beckon to them, waves creeping closer as if alive, watching her with a hungry gaze. Mom? Emma's voice turned sharp and conspiratorial, sending cold shivers racing down Kara's spine. You can't fight it, Mom. It's joining us. Before she could process, the tide surged higher, grasping at Kara's legs, pulling her toward the abyss. A terrible realization slammed into her. The house hadn't just trapped them, it had lured them into its dark embrace, and Dave wasn't the only one watching. The darkness is calling, whispered another voice from above, familiar yet twisted, sending an icy chill racing up her spine. Kara stood frozen, caught between the calls of her children and the lethal allure of the waves tugging her deeper into the ocean's maw. Could she pull them back, or had the beach house already claimed them as its own? As the surf surged, Kara faced the tumultuous choice before her, which path would lead to salvation, and which would seal their doom. Kara's heart raced, pounding against her ribs like a drum of impending doom. The waves crashed violently around her, swallowing pieces of her determination as they surged and pulled. She reached for Emma and Jake, the siblings standing like statues, their expressions eerily vacant, as if they were transfixed by something far beyond her understanding. Please, she gasped, each breath now heavy with salt and dread. Come back to me. But they only swayed, hypnotized by the roaring sea. Shadows danced across their faces, mixing with the ethereal glow of the lightning illuminating the dark sky. The moment felt suspended, the storm surrounding her humming with a spine-chilling energy. "Mom?" Emma repeated, a crack in her voice, but it sounded more like a chant than a plea. The way Jake parroted her words sent a shiver coursing through Kara, slicing deeper than the chilling wind. With trembling hands, Kara took a step forward, battling the clamoring sea as waves slapped against her. "No. You have to fight it. This isn't you. Mom, it's so wonderful here." Emma insisted, her arms stretched wide, as if she could embrace the chaos around her. A wave crashed closer, the water curling up to her waist, its cold grip seeping through her clothing. Panic clawed at her throat. The ocean rumbled as if it were laughing at her despair, a living entity dying to consume her whole. "Stop." Dave's voice boomed from behind, a solid entity amidst the storm's rage. "You shouldn't have come here, Kara. You should have listened." "No!" she screamed, her voice lost in the gale. "Get away from them." But he merely stood, a haunting figure against the backdrop of the fury, his silhouette growing darker as shadows swallowed the light. "Together!" he shouted, and the word tore through her confidence. "You can't save them alone." Kara couldn't waver now. Not when Emma and Jake seemed to draw deeper into the euphoric pull of the ocean. Her eyes widened as she felt her resolve crumbling, the ceiling of sanity cracking under the weight of dread. "Join us," they echoed, their dual voices weaving a wicked symphony that snared her mind. She clenched her teeth, struggling against the tide both physical and mental. "You'll see the beauty beneath the waves, the whispers of eternity. Embrace it." "No!" she yelled, feeling the very water seeking to drag her under, tempting her to surrender. She reached for her children, her arms straining as they waded deeper into the dark embrace. The ocean's call grew louder, swirling around her ears like a twisted lullaby. In one desperate surge of adrenaline, Kara lunged forward, grabbing Emma's wrist. She felt the chill of her daughter's skin, icy and foreign. "Emma, come back." The moment stretched into excruciating agony. Emma tumbled toward her, but Jake remained, eyes glowing with a depth that sent primal fears spiraling through Kara. "Join us, Mom," Jake hissed, shadows swirling around his form, coating the air with a suffocating dread. "No. Fight it, sweetheart. Please." Desperation echoed in her voice, like one last note of hope in a drowning choir. With one mighty tug, Kara pulled Emma back to her. But it was a hollow victory. Jake's face twisted into something unrecognizable, eyes now glinting with something dark and ancient. The waves roared, angry at her defiance. A swift current wrapped around her legs, and she was lifted off her feet, darkness threatening to consume her whole. "Mom!" Emma screamed. The echo felt like a dagger, sharp and piercing amidst the chaos. But the storm was only growing stronger now, fueled by her denial. Kara's world shrank, the chaotic roar of the ocean pushing against her ears, a cacophony of shouts and shrieks. Was the sea truly alive, gorging on fear and despair? She caught a glimpse of Dave, and for a fleeting moment, she thought he smirked, reveling in her turmoil. And suddenly, silence. All at once, everything went still. The storm ceased its fury, the ocean calmed, turning into a glassy surface that reflected the swirling clouds above. Kara's heart thundered in her chest as she caught her breath, clinging to Emma, the abyss staring back at her, waiting. But the calm was sinister, a deceptive guise hiding ruin. "Join us," another voice echoed, clearer than before, chilling her bones as it echoed from the now still waters. "Mom, it's time." Jake's voice chimed in, as sinister as before. And as the clouds parted, a new horror loomed ahead, shrouded in dread. What awaited them beneath the surface? Would she dare to find out? Kara's eyes darted across the water, the glassy surface now reflecting a sickly, false serenity. Emma clung to her side, shivering, waves lapping gently at their feet as if mocking their plight. "Mom?" Emma's voice was barely a whisper, raw and trembling, drifting like a feather on windless air. The stillness felt wrong, suffocating. "Stay close," Kara instructed, her voice thick with worry as she scanned the horizon. "We need to get out of here." But her resolve wavered. The silence was pressing down on her, an unseen weight. Under the calm exterior, she sensed a danger lurking, just out of sight. Emma looked up, her innocent eyes clouded with confusion. "Mom, where's Jake?" "I can't feel him, he was right here." Kara's heart dropped. She could see it too, the vacant space where Jake had just been. He's fighting it, honey. We need to find him. "Join us," the whisper came again from the water, more insistent now, echoing like a taunt. "No!" Kara shouted, anger igniting within her as panic threatened to swallow her whole. "This isn't you, Jake. Come back." The stillness shattered, then. The air grew heavy, thick with impending dread. A sudden gust howled across the shore, stirring the waters into a frenzy. The calm was peeling away like paint, exposing a raw, chaotic heart beneath. Without warning, the sea roared back to life, waves now clawing at the shoreline with furious teeth. Dark shapes writhed just below the surface, shadows that twisted and pulsed, beckoning her into the depths. "Mom! Get away!" Emma screamed, terror splitting her voice like glass. Kara felt the ground give way beneath her. She stumbled, retreating with Emma toward the safety of the dunes. But, in a flash, the tide surged forward, reclaiming what belonged to it. "Together!" Dave's voice rang out, not far from them, but it held an unsettling edge, as if he were joining another chorus. "Stop!" Kara shouted, her breath quickening. "Get away from us!" But the shadows only danced closer with each breath she took, coiling around her like dark vines. They whispered promises of beauty, of peace, and small flickers of regret ignited within her. What if they were right? "Join us," another voice joined in, stark against the chaos, both inviting and repulsive. The water seemed to pulse with a heartbeat of its own, the rhythm of something sinister awakening beneath the depths. "Mom!" Emma cried, pulling at Kara's arm. "Please don't listen to them." The echoes of her children's voices mingled with that horrific siren call, creating a cacophony that drowned out reason. Kara shook her head violently to dispel the dark thoughts invading her mind. Suddenly, Jake appeared, breaking through the surf like a specter. His face was pale, twisted in a grimace that twisted her insides. "Mom, it's so beautiful down here." His eyes sparkled with something unholy, a brightness that chilled her soul. "No!" Kara yelled, forcing herself to step closer, heart hammering. "Jake! You have to fight it. We love you." He hesitated, just for a moment, and Kara seized the chance. "Come back to us. Please." An explosion of energy surged as the shadows surged, fighting against the pull of her plea. The dark waters churned violently, almost in response to her will. "Help him," Emma whispered, eyes wide with a blend of hope and horror. Kara's heart screamed, and she extended her hand towards Jake. But just then, the water erupted, a monstrous wave rising, towering above them, its surface alive with seething darkness. "Mom!" Jake's voice echoed, winding down into a pit of despair that throbbed in Kara's chest. In that moment, the wave crashed down, taking Jake with it, a violent surge of chaos that ripped him out of her reach. "Fight! Fight!" She screamed, but as the water splashed over them, it sounded like laughter, mocking her futile efforts. Kara felt the cold grip of the ocean claw at her ankles, an icy hand snatching at her heart. The last glimpse of Jake vanished beneath the surface, darkness claiming him. "Mom!" Emma's voice broke, and she fell to her knees, defeated. The abyss stared back at them, and in that haunting silence, Kara knew a choice loomed ahead. The sea beckoned both her and Emma down, promising answers and horrors untold. Would she allow herself to be dragged in as well? What could she sacrifice to save her son? As the waters whispered and the skies darkened once more, the horizon twisted with fear. What new horrors lurked beneath the waves, waiting to ensnare them all? Kara knelt in the cold sand, Emma's small body trembling beside her. The air was thick with salt and despair, a bitter concoction that made her stomach churn. The ocean roiled before them, dark waves crashing violently, each full of menace. Somewhere within that tumult, Jake was lost. "Mom!" Emma whimpered, haunted eyes scanning the furious waters as if searching for a glimmer of hope. "What if we can't find him?" Kara's heart ached. They had to find him, she couldn't let the darkness claim her son. But the pull of the sea was almost magnetic, a sinister charm urging her closer. Every whisper that drifted from the waves seemed to say, "Join us. It's so beautiful." "No!" Kara shouted, shaking her head harshly. "We don't listen to them, Emma. We fight." But even as she spoke, doubt slithered through her mind. What if they were too late? What if Jake was already gone forever? "Mom!" Emma's voice rang out with raw fear. "The water, it's calling to me." Kara tightened her grip around Emma's shoulders, anchoring her to the sand even as the tide crept nearer. "We won't let it win." But the ocean was relentless. The waves began to break farther up the shore, inching closer, hungry and dark. They carried the sting of threats and promises unmade. Shadows danced, shapeless and cruel, darting just out of sight. "Look!" Emma pointed, her voice barely above a whisper. Kara followed her gaze and gasped. There, amid the foamy chaos, a figure surfaced, Jake's face, pale and lost. The boy gripped at the water, struggling to stay afloat. His eyes, once warm and vibrant, glowed with an unsettling brilliance she couldn't quite understand. Fear twisted inside her chest, a coiling serpent of dread. "Jake!" Kara called, heart galloping. She fought the impulse to run into the waves, knowing the water was treacherous. "It wants me." Jake's voice echoed, hollow and distant. "You should come too, Mom, it's beautiful. Don't listen to it." Kara cried, digging her fingers into Emma's arm. "They couldn't lose him, not like this. We love you. Fight, Jake. Remember our camping trips? The stars?" For a breathless moment, Jake hesitated, as if her words pierced through the fog of whatever enchantment ensnared him. But then, something in his expression shifted, a shadow cast over his features. A hideous smile crept across his lips. "Mom! It's so easy. Just let yourself go." The tide surged violently, almost as if to punctuate his words, and Kara watched helplessly as Jake was dragged under again. Panic ignited within her. "Stay here," she ordered Emma, forcing herself to stand. The water lapped at her ankles, cool and clammy, pulling her closer to the depths she feared. Kara looked back at Emma, who cowered, eyes pooled with tears but fiery resolve igniting her small frame. "Mom, you can't." Emma cried. "Please don't. It's a trap." But the ocean was a siren, the shadows danced and beckoned. Kara's heart thundered in her chest, a visceral reminder that she was standing at the edge of a nightmare, suspended in uncertainty. "Trust me." Kara shouted back, wading deeper into the salt and chaos, the icy tendrils grasping at her waist. "I won't lose him. I promise." As the water closed over her shoulders and she dipped under, the darkness enveloped her, crawling over her skin like icy fingers. Visions swirled in the depths, fragmented images of Jake laughing, chasing waves but then flickering to echoes of his twisted smile. "Join us," the voices began again, surrounding her, filling her chest with lead. And then, suddenly, the water was still. Kara blinked at the quiet, disoriented by the lack of noise, the weight of anticipation hanging as thick as the water around her. There was no laughter now, only a depthless quiet, as if the sea itself held its breath. What had she plunged into? What awaited her in this expansive darkness? With every ounce of determination left, Kara pushed herself toward the surface, straining against the pressure. But when she finally breached the water, gasping for air, there was no Jake. Only silence, and the pounding of her heart in her ears. "Jake!" She screamed, panic flooding her senses. From the depths, something shifted. Shadows writhed below, glowing faintly, and she couldn't shake the sensation that they were watching her. Waiting. As her heart raced in her chest, dread settled deep within her. What was lurking just beneath the surface? And what would it demand in return for their son? Kara gasped, her lungs screaming with the salt of the ocean as she emerged. The night was thick, smothering, and the air felt alive with menace. It pressed against her skin like a heavy blanket. She fought through the emptiness, eyes darting frantically through the inky blackness for any sign of Jake. "Please, please," she muttered, each word heavy with desperation. "Where are you?" Each heartbeat echoed loudly in her ears, drowning out everything else. The shadows danced below her, teasing, just out of reach. No longer just empty water, the surf rippled with an energy she couldn't understand. It was a living thing. A predator. "Mom! Help!" Emma's shrill voice cut through the fear, breaking a momentary silence as the waves snapped and growled behind them. "I don't like it. The water, it's pulling me." Kara whirled around, dread coiling in her gut as she saw her daughter stumble back, foot tangled in a vine of seaweed that writhed like a snake. "Emma! Get back!" Her command sliced through the tempest of Kara's panic. She lunged for her daughter, but the icy water dragged at her with invisible fingers. Kara felt a wave of oppressive darkness surround her, heavy and suffocating. She caught a fleeting glimpse of a figure moving beneath the surface, a flash of pale skin and the familiar tousled hair. Jake! It felt like a dream, but it was maddeningly real. "Mom! I can't hold on!" Emma cried, panic echoing in her voice again. "It's gonna take me." With an adrenaline-fueled surge, Kara dashed for Emma, grabbing her hand. "I'm right here." But the water continued to swirl with intent, the shadows peeling back as if expecting something from her. An offering? An apology? She felt raw energy throbbing from the depths below. In that electrifying moment, Kara blinked, and suddenly, the shadows shimmered, surfacing memories that felt foreign, yet intimate: the smell of their house, the warmth of summer days, the sound of laughter filled the air. Jake's laughter twisted into something eerie, vibrating through her mind, melding with the whispers of the sea. "Mom! It's so much better here, you can have it all." The echo of her son's voice crawled inside her head. "No!" Panic surged as she tightened her grip on Emma. Tears stung her eyes, mingling with the salt water. The dark whispers grew louder, drowning out rational thought. "Fight it! Fight it!" But she felt her resolve start to waver. The water shimmered with inviting calmness, beckoning her down. "Let it go, Kara." The murmurs blended into a haunting hymn, promising ease and release. They promised everything would be all right if she'd just surrender, just give in. Kara shook her head violently, the ache in her throat choking back the allure. "I want to let you take my kids. I want to." The last word bellowed from her with a ferocity that startled even her. The ocean flared with rage. Waves crashed violently as if in response to her defiance, the water roiling like a furious beast. "Mom! I'm scared!" Emma yelled, her voice barely rising above the cacophony. Kara's heart pounded as she strained to hear through the storm. She had to get Emma safe. And she had to find Jake. "Hold on, Emma. Please. Just hold on tight." The pull from the water grew stronger, shadows swooping closer, glistening forms darting just beyond her view. They were clawing, feeding on her despair, and the realization struck her: the ocean wanted them both. "Let us fight!" Kara shouted, clinging to Emma. The sea roared back, its voice echoing with 1,000 terrified souls. Suddenly, the world tilted as the water surged higher, a dark wave looming before her. In that moment, Kara gasped as a figure shot up from the depths, twisting towards them. The unmistakable shape of Jake broke through the surface, arms wide, eyes glinting with an otherworldly glow, smiling wickedly. "Mom, it's beautiful down here." And just like that, the calmness she fought against began to envelop them all. Would she give in to the terror or claim her children and battle against the fathomless darkness? Fingers grasped at her, ripping her hold on Emma. Kara's heart sank. What would it take to save them now, as both children slipped into the depths? Is this where it ends? A final crash of the surf sent them tumbling beneath the waves, leaving Kara to wonder, as the world faded black, if she would ever resurface. Would she become another shadow in the terrifying depths, forever lost? In the heavy darkness, a voice whispered, "Won't you join us?" And then, silence. Kara's world shattered like glass. Silence enveloped her, cold and suffocating. Weightlessness swallowed the remnants of her struggle, dragging her deeper into the murky abyss. It felt like time had stopped, each second expanding into infinity as the darkness closed in around her. The ocean tugged her, inviting yet insatiable, 1,000 whispers swirling in her mind, stealing her breath. "Join us," they sang, and in that haunting lullaby, she could feel Jake's presence, his warmth, his laughter. Memories flooded back in vivid bursts, each one a dagger twisting in her heart. She felt herself drift, the seduction of surrender curling around her like the very water trying to claim her, but then, a flash, Emma's face, her eyes wide with terror. A spark ignited within Kara, pulling her back from the edge. "No!" she screamed, words bubbling up from a well of despair as she fought against the disorienting waves. She spread her arms and kicked against the darkness. "I won't lose you." Suddenly, light pierced the obscurity, a silver beam cutting through the gloom. With a jolt, Kara surged upwards, fighting against the cool grasp of the water. The surface loomed closer, but all too familiar shadows slithered beneath her, eager to pull her back down into their chilling embrace. "Mom!" Emma's voice echoed again, more distant now. The break of the waves sounded like hands clapping, a twisted audience celebrating their despair. Kara's muscles burned, but she didn't falter. She pushed onward, desperate for air, eager to reclaim her daughter. With a final, frantic kick, she broke through the surface. Wind whipped against her face, a fierce reminder she was alive. But as she gasped, the image of Jake became clearer, hanging at the edge of her vision. He wasn't just below, he was there, smiling that same unsettling smile. Pain rushed through her, warmth turned to ice as dread gripped her heart. "Kara," he called, voice sweet as honey, but edged with a darkness that twisted something deep inside. "Stay with us, it's perfect here." "Scream, Emma!" she shouted, fear lacing her words. "Just scream. Get help." The water roared, swallowing her command, drowning out any trace of hope. Instinctively, she glanced around, searching through the surf for Emma. Panic clawed in her throat as she saw the daughter struggling against the currents, arms flailing in a fight she could barely maintain. The waves crashed higher, tossing them about like flotsam, and the whispering caressed her ears again. "Let go. Let it take you." The seductive lure grew stronger, like an all-consuming fog rolling in. She closed her eyes and tried to block it out, but the haunting vision of Jake hovered just below, swirling with dark intent. "Mom, please!" Emma's shriek cut through the haze, a raw cry that anchored Kara back to reality. "Hold on." She reached out, fingers trembling as she fought through the turbulent waters, feeling herself pulled back toward Jake's beckoning. He was a phantom, a sinister shadow with memories of her little boy. A voice sang within her, urging her to embrace the comfort of the dark, the safety of surrender. Kara shook her head wildly. No. I want to let you take my family. The chaos whirled around them, a tempest of shadows and dread engulfed them. Something surged beneath the waves, rising toward the surface, hungry and relentless. Eyes wide with terror, Kara's heart raced as fear erupted once more. Find the surface, Kara. Echoed a voice, but this one was different. It wasn't Jake's, nor the whispers of the sea. It pulsed with life. With one last desperate kick, she propelled herself toward Emma, grasping for her hand, but as they locked eyes, the shadows encroached closer. Jake's face twisted, morphing between love and something darker. A sudden chill swept through Kara, making her shiver deep in her bones. A jagged shape emerged from the depths, crashing against the surf, silhouettes gliding like phantoms, hungry for the warmth of the living. Join us, Jake's voice repeated, layered with distortion, as they fell deeper into the abyss. The pull intensified, and one last flash of determination ignited within Kara. She would fight until her last breath. Panting, her eyes glimmered with fear and disbelief. What lay beneath the waves? The answer surged forward, ready to snatch them both into oblivion. Could courage keep them afloat, or would they, too, slip beneath the endless darkness? As bumps slammed against her from all sides, Kara's grip faltered. Would she choose to believe in salvation, or was it already too late? In an adrenaline-fueled moment, she dove again into the depths, screaming against the chaos, "No more. I'll never join you." As Kara propelled herself downward, a thick silence enveloped her. The water turned cold, wrapping around her body like a shroud. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears, drowning out the seductive calls, becoming more desperate, more distorted. She searched through the dark, desperately yearning to find Emma, to pull her from the jaws of this nightmare. Fingers clawed at her skin, ghostly wisps wrapping tighter around her as if they were trying to haul her back toward the shadows. Each movement was met with resistance, dragging her toward a darkness that smelled of decay and whispered of despair. Glimpses of Jake flickered beneath her. Each time he appeared, his face twisted further, the warmth gone, replaced by hunger. "Join us," he hissed, stretching out his hand as if beckoning for her to embrace the void. "No." Kara's voice reverberated against the water, a fractured echo. With each kick, she summoned every ounce of strength, eyes scanning for any sign of Emma. The memories surged again, and just as quickly as they came, they felt like blades cutting into her. Moments with Emma. Picnics on the beach, laughter ringing against the wind, warm hugs after long days. Every joyful memory became shackles, weighing her down as the abyss tugged with relentless insistence. Rising bubbles born from her panic spiraled upward, breaking the surface above her as moments of clarity shimmered in the murky gloom. Suddenly, Emma's voice rang clear, slicing through the haze of despair. "Mom." The single word ignited a fire in Kara's chest, pushing her muscles to fight. The shadows squirmed, crawling up her legs to pull her back down into the depths. With a burst of desperate energy, she pushed harder, lungs on fire, mind racing. Spotting her daughter struggling just beyond her reach brought renewed purpose. "Emma. Keep swimming," she shouted, though the darkness tried again to drown out her command. But something changed. Emma's struggle became a frenzy, a raw survival instinct that seeped through the water like flame. The sound of her rising screams echoed as if the ocean itself were amplifying her terror. Stored warmth surged through Kara's veins, reminding her of the fierce love wrapped around her daughter. Then she saw it, Emma, arms flailing, fear flashing bright in her eyes. Her heart cracked wide open as they locked gazes, mother and daughter suspended in their own dance against fate. "I'm coming, Emma," Kara cried, kicking with everything she had left, pushing past the entangled voices, whose whispering grew more frantic. But then the depths erupted. Dark figures sprang from the inky void, grotesque and twisted, surfacing with a rage that left her breathless. They clawed at Kara and Emma, their hollow eyes radiating hunger as they screeched. "Join us." Voices merged into a cacophony that pierced her soul, each syllable echoing her fear. Time warped, terror had a weight, and it pressed against her chest, squeezing her breath. Each second felt like a lifetime, but still she fought. Just as she felt Emma slip, just as a wave of panic threatened to engulf her, Kara lunged. "Hold on!" she bellowed, fingers stretching out, reaching for her daughter, yearning for that connection, the bond that drew them closer. Then, for a brief moment, the shadows faltered, and the shimmering moonlight broke through the surface, illuminating their desperate struggle. Kara surged up toward it, knowing she had to escape this spiral of despair, but a sudden, jarring pain pierced her side, something sharp ripped into her, the jagged shape of darkness seeking to draw her down again. There's no way the ocean would let them go now. The pull began again, fierce and merciless, as shadows surged closer. Kara's breath caught, as realization struck. They weren't just battling for survival, they were caught in a sinister game, and the stakes were higher than she ever imagined. In that instant, the forces at play shifted, as if awaiting a conclusion. Would darkness forever snuff out the flame home sparkles within them? Or could they rise above it, returning to the light? "Hold on!" Kara screamed. Once more, as the shadows reached for her, looking desperately up towards Emma, she felt hope flicker in her heart. But would it be enough? The final plunge into panic loomed closer. Kara's heart raced as the shadows clawed at her, their cold fingers slipping under her skin. The jagged pain in her side burned with a fiery urgency, anchoring her to the depths. She fought against the darkness, every ounce of her spirit screaming for Emma. "Kara!" Emma's pleading cry resonated like a beacon, clear and bright, urging her to keep going. But the pit beneath them deepened as the twisted forms surrounded them, their wails merging into a siren song that seeped into her mind, distorting her thoughts. "Join us," they crooned again, a tempting, dreadful chorus. She saw Jake's face emerge among them, his expression now monstrous, lips curled into a twisted grin. "You can't escape, we're family now," he taunted, inching closer, dark hands reaching for her. "No! Get away!" Kara screamed, thrashing wildly. Each swing felt heavier, every kick a battle against an overwhelming tide. But fear and exhaustion crackled through her limbs, the water growing thick like syrup, dragging her down. Suddenly, a bright spark ignited deep inside her. The memory of Emma's laughter, the way her eyes sparkled when she saw the ocean for the first time during their beach trip, burst through the fog of despair. That wasn't a memory, that was fuel, a reminder of what she was fighting for. Kara summoned all her strength, pushing away the shadows grasping at her. "I will not let you take her," she bellowed. Channeling every ounce of love, panic, and determination, she surged upward, desperate to reach the light above. The hulking forms screeched, a cacophony of furious denial and hunger that clawed at her ears, reverberating through her entire being. But she pressed on, eyes locked on Emma, who was still struggling against the shadowed tide, arms thrashing amidst the dark chaos. "I see you!" Emma cried, desperation mingling with fierce resolve. But the entities were relentless, swirling around them, tightening their grip. As Kara broke through the murky water toward the surface, a powerful current dragged her back down once more. Frantic, the air burning in her lungs, she twisted around and grabbed Emma's flailing hand. Time stopped as they gripped each other tightly. A rush of warmth flooded through their connected limbs. For a heartbeat, the darkness faltered, shrieking in confusion as it swirled chaotically around them. With a ferocious determination, Kara pulled Emma toward the light, their hands interlocked like iron. They were so close. The surface shimmered above them, beckoning. Yet the shadows lunged, like beasts desperate for a meal, each grasping limb reaching for Kara's back, tugging her away from what could be salvation. Fear threatened to overpower her, gnawing at her courage. "Help! Someone! Please!" Kara shouted, even though she was well aware of the futility in calling out to a vast, indifferent ocean. Yet, she knew she had to fight, had to keep pulling Emma up. With one last, desperate kick, Kara's feet found purchase on the sandy bottom. Using the last of her strength, she rocketed toward the surface, dragging Emma behind her, the light growing brighter, almost blinding. Then the pain struck again, a searing grip around her ankle, pulling her back into the dark abyss, and Kara screamed, a raw, piercing sound that echoed through the waves. Both terror and survival instinct raged within her as she twisted into the dark water, adrenaline surging through her veins. Would the light above them be enough to break the hold of the shadows below? As they breached the surface, gasping for air, Kara's heart sank. They were still tangled in a web of shadow only a few feet away from freedom, yet it felt miles out of reach. And then she saw it. An enormous wave, dark as ink, brewing on the horizon. It rolled toward them, a monstrous wall of water that threatened to crash down in furious fury. "Hold on, Emma!" she yelled, just as the shadows surged to claim them both. Could they survive the oncoming tide, or would this be their end? Kara clutched Emma's hand tightly, fear coiling in her gut as the massive wave loomed closer. The dark swell seemed to breathe, a living thing rising to drown them in its depths. Panic screamed in her chest, urging her to push them both toward the shore, but the shadows clawed at her, dragging her into the swirling darkness. "Fight! Emma, we have to fight!" she cried, looking into her daughter's wide, terrified eyes. Emma nodded, determination flooding her small frame. "I'm with you, Mom." Together, they kicked against the tide, pulling through the frigid water that threatened to suck them down into the chaos below. The dark forms entangled in the currents writhed, reaching, hungry. Kara felt hands grazing her ankle like skeletal embraces, whispers pouring tales of despair into her ears, trying to reel her back into the dark comfort they offered. "No!" she shouted, each word a mantra of resistance. With every ounce of strength she could muster, she yanked Emma toward the shore. "We're going to make it," she gasped, her lungs burning with each stroke. The wave loomed above them, gigantic and terrifying, its roar echoing in her bones. But in that moment, something shifted in the air around them, a collective sigh, a lull that temporarily halted the chaos. Kara felt it too, a surge of strength flowing from Emma's grip, a reminder of the life they built together. It was enough to ignite the flares of hope. "Keep swimming. We can do this," Kara urged, her voice a peg in the loose ground of uncertainty. As the towering wave crashed down, the world shrank into a darkness so profound, it felt as if they were swallowed whole. But they clung to each other with a fierce tenacity, their hearts pounding as one amidst the chaos. Suddenly, cold water washed over them, gripping and clawing as if it sought to separate the two. But through the suffocating darkness, Kara felt a flicker of hope. In the heart of the wave, she saw it, the light breaking impossibly through the chaos. A vision of their home came to her, she could almost smell the fresh paint, hear the laughter echo through the halls, the warmth of family. "Swim! Swim!" she bellowed, kicking harder as the light shimmered closer. A rush of adrenaline propelled them both forward, breaking through the surface just as the monstrous wave cascaded back, leaving them gasping in the chaos. Tall dunes greeted them, and she felt the grains of sand between her fingers, promising safety. "Emma! We made it!" They staggered to their feet, the shore within grasp now, the ocean hissing angrily behind them, shadows retreating into the depths, seething for their lost prey. Turning, Kara caught one final glimpse of Jake beneath the water, a flicker of that twisted smile before the currents pulled him back into darkness. Her heart shattered, but she had to focus on Emma. "Don't look back, sweetie. Focus on me." Kara took Emma's other hand and pulled her, drawing her toward the dune. Each step felt like a struggle against the relentless tide that whispered and raged behind them, but they were moving. They were alive. Finally, reaching the crest, they collapsed onto the sand, breathless and trembling. Kara wrapped her arms around Emma, unable to shake the lingering chill. "Mom, what do we do now?" Emma asked, her eyes glistening with tears. Kara looked toward the horizon where the sun was beginning to peek through the storm clouds. "Now we breathe." The words felt heavy on her tongue, as if releasing all that darkness would bring her crashing down. "And we go home. Together." Hope flickered within her as she pulled Emma close, warmth enveloping them both in the cool air. The whispers fading, finally growing silent. They had defied the pull of the ocean, escaped the sinister song it sang, and clawed their way back. Hand in hand, they turned their backs on the turbulent sea, vowing never to return. As they started up the path leading back to the car, the scars of that night would never fade. They would carry the weight of what they had faced together, a bond now tested by darkness. But they would also carry the light of hope, a reminder that, no matter how far into the depths they had been, they could emerge again, together, and somewhere in the quiet of the returning waves, a distant echo lingered, a call of shadows promising doom, but they were no longer afraid. Kara whispered softly, "And we will never listen again." As they stepped forward, the shadows receded into the depths, knowing they had lost this time. It was a new dawn, a new beginning, but now more than ever, the lingering question would remain: would the darkness ever stop haunting them? If you loved this dramatic conclusion, you need to subscribe now to catch our next exclusive stories. And hey, make sure to smash that like button to help our algorithm soar. Flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about this ending. Your voice matters. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need this thrilling closure in their lives. Together, we can keep the magic alive.